Thank you for joining us today. If any of you are new, my name is Rachel Fisher. I'm the Member Services Librarian for Technical Services, and I regularly plan sessions to train everyone on the technical services side of LEAP. If you have any requests for any training sessions, please contact me at the help desk. I'm happy to plan any customized training sessions for your library, or if everyone would benefit, it could be for the entire consortium. So today, I will be speaking on the manual acquisitions, functions, and LEAP that have been added for version 7.3. And I'm going to begin this webinar, as I have previous webinars, by reviewing what is and isn't functioning in LEAP, because Innovative is slowly adding new functionality with each upgrade to LEAP for technical services. So this will provide you with a full idea of what LEAP is capable of at this present time. And then I will switch to LEAP and demonstrate how to manually create orders and invoices in LEAP. If I still have time at the end of the session, I'll also demonstrate how to cancel orders and credit invoices, but I'm very happy to go back and demonstrate anything again that you would like to have repeated, and I can always put off canceling and orders and crediting invoices for another session. If I do go too fast, please feel free to let me know in the chat, and feel free to ask me to repeat anything at any point. I know this is a lot of new information, and it's something that you may not feel comfortable with doing right away. So I am happy to repeat the acquisition sessions as much as you need to in the future. So in the previous sessions, I reviewed a similar slide listing what you can and cannot do in LEAP. So I've updated it for 7.3 so you can get an idea of how Innovative is progressing with their upgrades. If you attended the previous acquisition sessions, this will be familiar to you already. So at this point, fiscal year, fund, and supplier records can be created and edited. You can import the on-order records with Mark Import using Express Import, but not full import. So this means that you cannot alter most of the settings of the import profile before importing the file. So you can just update the display and pack settings and the record set settings. LEAP includes the functionality to send EDI orders, receive the orders, and pay invoices. With 7.3, Innovative added the ability to manually create orders. So you can now add line items manually to the purchase order and create purchase orders by bulk adding titles. The manual acquisitions processes also include copying the line items to an invoice and paying it, as well as the ability to create miscellaneous invoices. Orders can also be canceled and invoices can be credited. Unfortunately, there are two bugs that we have identified that occur when EDI invoices are processed and when manual invoices are paid. So at this time, we still recommend not using the acquisitions functions in LEAP and to continue using the client until the bugs get fixed. However, I don't want this to discourage you from using the training server to learn how to use LEAP. If you find any additional bugs in the training server, you can create a help desk ticket to let us know. As for the functionality that hasn't been added yet, there are several functions missing from fund records. This includes sub-fund management or a hierarchical view, a multi-fund editor, and the ability to adjust encumbrances and expenditures. New templates and import profiles cannot be created yet, nor can you use the full import functions. While links from the POs and invoices have been added, the equivalent links to POs and invoices from the bibliographic and item records are not included in LEAP yet. Regarding orders, the abilities to receive segments and split those segments, as well as the ability to uncancel the canceled line items, have not been added. Regarding invoices, rapid receipt and printing vouchers are still missing. However, you will see a receive button in the invoices that just doesn't function yet. Regarding EDI and ASN and the ability to process the invoices from partial shipments have also not been added to LEAP. After the training session, you can refer to the list of resources in these slides. I haven't finished creating all of the software simulations yet for the lessons on invoices, but I should be able to finish that in the next week. But I do have all of the videos and guided activities that have been added for these lessons. So I'll let you know when that's been updated. I've also included the links to all of the web pages, and those include the step-by-step instructions and videos that are also in the course. So are there any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing my slide 1 second.
Rachel, I have a question. This is Shanti.
Sure, one moment. More people I see, I need to admit. Okay, yes.
So I see a lot of the functions that are quite important in my mind, and I'm sure to every acquisitions person, is not available in LEAP yet. However, are these same functions that are not yet available in LEAP, are they available, or can we use them in the training module?
They're not in the training module yet. But you can start learning to adapt your new workflow to LEAP by practicing with what does exist. So as I demonstrated in LEAP, you'll see that is a full workflow for manual acquisitions in which you can import the records or create the manual records if you don't have, the vendor records, and then release the purchase orders, copy the order to the invoice, and then pay the invoice. So the most common workflow is available, but the things that are not available for manual acquisitions would be like rapid receipts. If you're used to using rapid receipt, that's not available yet. And uncanceling the purchase orders canceled, or uncanceling the ones that were canceled, is not available yet.
Okay. So basically adding the manual purchase orders of vendors that do not have EDI yet, correct? If I'm understanding this correctly? Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
EDI
Thank you,
is
Rachel.
available. I was saying EDI is available in LEAP at this time, but one of the libraries has tried it, and when they received the invoice from the vendor, it was not actually processed properly, and so Innovative needs to fix a glitch. If you do try it, what happens is that the discount is properly displaying in the invoice line item, but that's not applied to the full total of the invoice. So Innovative has to regenerate those invoices. So at this time, it's best not to try using LEAP for EDI until they fix that issue. Did you have another question?
I did not. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on what I've covered? Okay, I'm going to now switch to LEAP. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so you should now be seeing my browser. So I'm going to start from the point of logging into Leap. So an easy way to access Leap is from the CCS website on the Member Tools A to Z page. So you'll find the Member Tools A to Z page in the Member Tools drop-down menu. And then if you scroll down to the middle, you'll see the two links, one for production and one for training. If you click on View, you can access production or training. And to log in, you would type the CCS / your username and password. It's the same as accessing the client. And sign in, and then you can select your branch and workstation. I'll select Fox River today. And press continue. You will see that warning message reminding you it's a training server. And it has that same color scheme as a client, red for training and blue for production. So the first thing that I am going to demonstrate today is how to create a manual purchase order. So this would be used for those vendors that do not provide you with vendor records. So the first thing you can do is open the new drop-down menu and then select purchase order from the menu. This will open a dialog box in which you can select your purchase order template. So I'm going to just select none for now. If you do select that template, what it would do would be to populate your supplier field with your supplier that's in your template. You can add in your purchase order number, review the other fields to make sure they're correct, and to add in your supplier. If you chose not to use a template, you would press find, like the client. And I'm going to have to filter it since I can see everyone's supplier records. I'm going to filter it for Fox River Valley today and press apply. Oh, and this funnel symbol is the filter symbol. So I'm going to, let's see, I'll choose Baker and Taylor for my supplier and press open. So before adding the line items, you have to save the purchase order. And this is my purchase order. So you can see that instead of the views along the side, we have tabs. There are several more tabs than there are views in the client. And so some of these are where you'll find your linked records, your bibliographic item, invoices, and funds. So I'm going to click on the line items to add my line item. And to do so, I'm going to press new line item. So this looks just like it does in the client. You would press your find button to search for the ISBN, or you can select a bib template to create that bibliographic record if there is no bibliographic record in the client yet. So I am going to search for Mexican Gothic, because I've been thinking about reading that lately. And find a book record in here. So here's a book record. So this adds the unit price to the bibliographic record. If you want to add a discount price now, you can do that, or you can wait until you've received your invoice. If you do need to change your ISBN, and this is especially important for those ISBNs from that have that 979 digit that begins the ISBN 13, you can click on this text box and choose a different ISBN. Before pressing save, you need to add segments. So I'm going to click on the segments tab and then select new segment. You can update the quantity, destination. I'm going to choose fiction for the fiction collection and find a kind of fiction fund. So there's my fiction fund, and then I'll press OK. And now I can press save to save the purchase order line item. This is our line item for Mexican Gothic. It also has similar tabs to connect you with funds records or invoices when the invoice shows up. So you can also add notes to the notes tab or instructions to the supplier. And it has a claims tab as well. And to return to the purchase order, I can press close. In order for that line item to show up, you need to press refresh. If you make any changes to that line item, you need to press refresh again for them to appear in the purchase order. Okay, I know that's a lot of information, so I wanted to know if I should demonstrate that again and add another new line item, or should I move on to releasing that purchase order? So you can type in the chat or unmute yourself if you'd like to answer. Okay, I will demonstrate the next step. So the next step is releasing the purchase order. So it's fairly simple. It's under the Actions drop-down menu. On the Actions drop-down menu, you'll see the options for releasing, sending for those who have EDIO invoices, or deleting if you want to delete it. I'm going to release the purchase order now. It will ask me if I want to create the on-order item records. So if you do want to create the on-order item records at this time, you have to make sure that the details section has a material type, which I hadn't done yet. So I'm going to add that in and make that book and press save. Because when you create the on-order item records without the 970 field, it creates those item records by matching the collection and the material type to your item template. So you need to make sure that information is in all of your line items. So I'm going to try that again now and release the record and generate on-order item records. The payment options dialog box will open. You can select if you want to pay on receipt or prepay and press continue. So this has changed the status of the purchase order to released and the status of the line item to on order. Are there any questions about what I've just covered so far? If I've gone too fast, feel free to let me know and I can repeat anything again.
Question, Rachel?
Yes.
So unlike what we do through EDI vendors, where you hit release the purchase order and then you do a second step to say file and send, is that not necessary for these orders?
It is only necessary for the EDI vendors. Not all libraries do EDI ordering. Some only manually order. So they would not have the ability to send the EDI orders. If you have EDI orders set up properly, then you can click on the Actions drop-down menu again, and then press send, and it will send that EDI order to your vendor.
Okay, got it. So this is just for, so the second step is just for the EDI vendors.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you would send your EDI order to Baker and Taylor, but if you are maybe ordering something from Amazon, you wouldn't be able to send an EDI order to Amazon, and you would just press release. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm going to demonstrate our next process, and that is going to be bulk adding the titles to your purchase order. So in order to do that, you would start with your vendor records, and you would normally have your 970 field output to those vendor records from your vendor. And those can be really beneficial to help you create your purchase orders and connect your item records to the correct item template when the order is released. So I know that most of you have those 970 fields set up yet, but I do want to mention it because I know some people attending today don't have the 970 field set up yet and haven't started using acquisitions yet in Innovative. So if you're interested in setting up the 970 fields with your vendor, please do contact me. We have information on the bulk adding titles to a purchase order and LEAP page about those 970 fields. And I can go through that with you and make sure that you have your 970 fields set up properly with the vendor before you send your first order. So after you receive your records, you will import them using Mark Import. Mark Import is under the Utilities drop-down menu. It's the last one on the list. This will open to your profile setup page. This lists all the profiles, and you can just scroll down and find your profile. So I have logged in as Fox River Valley, so I'm going to find a Fox River profile. And I'll choose this one for Ingram. Right now, it's only letting you use Express Import, so you will not be able to update or change these profiles, except for the display and pack setting on the bibliographic records page. For those that do use item records creation settings for your import profiles, you also cannot change those yet. If you do that regularly, you would have to still use the client, but you can update the record set settings. I'm going to leave these as they are. And to import the file, you'll need to be on that profile setup page. Down at the bottom, you can see the button for select file. So I'm going to select that. Unlike the client, you can have your file anywhere in your computer. You don't have to use that USB drive or the network drive anymore. And you can pick it up from anywhere in the computer. So mine's on my desktop. I'm just going to select that. You can select as many files as you want to import at a time and press continue. And the import button is at the top. So I'm going to press import to import my set of records. And that automatically closes. So the next thing you'll want to do is to open up the import jobs queue. Unfortunately, that doesn't open automatically the way it does with the client. So we have to navigate to utilities and click on cataloging processing. So both the bibliographic bulk change queue and the Mark Import queue are in the same page. And I'll click on the Mark Import tab. My file still says pending, so I'm going to press refresh. It's running, and now it's completed. So you can open that up to look at your import report for any error messages and record set names. It's taking some time to load. One moment. There's the import reports. I'm just going to copy the record set name so I can access that record set quickly. Close that. Are there any questions on the MARC import process? I don't see any questions. So I'm now going to open up that record sets and move on to bulk adding the titles to the purchase order. So I've opened up the find tool, and all of the record types are in this first database drop-down menu. And I'll select record set and open up my record set. This top actions drop-down menu is where you will find the option to bulk add the titles to the new purchase order or the existing purchase order. If you choose existing purchase order, the find tool will open. So I'm going to select the new purchase order. And this is the add to new purchase order dialog box. There is one thing that's missing from this still, and that is the purchase order template. So you do need to select your supplier. So I'm going to change the PO number. It's got Fox River Valley as the owner, and I'm going to search for a Fox River Valley supplier. And it's important to add those line item defaults. In case the 970 field is missing from the record, it will choose the default for the material type, destination, collection, and fund. So I'm going to find that fiction fund again. And the default list price can be 1 cent, so you know you need to update that if there's anything missing. And then I'll press continue to create that purchase order. So there's a error report that automatically downloads. And I've used the same records a lot of times, so it's just telling me it's a suspected duplicate. And if you forget your purchase order number, this is an easy way to access it right there at the top. And I do see some questions that came in. One moment. It's not letting me access that chat and pop up. There we go. Okay, so there's a question from Lay, will you be able to show a provisional record status? Lay, do you mean just in the import report, or do you mean when searching for records?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, what I meant is if there's a status of provisional report, and you know how we do it in staff client, we check for duplication to see if there's another record out there. Is this process ready in LEAP?
Yes. So if you press save on your bibliographic record, it will show you when the duplicates are there. It doesn't have a check for duplicates button yet, but you just have to press save.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I guess so. If you hit save, then that provisional record becomes final.
Right.
But then I have to go back into the staff client to see if I should merge it with another bib record out there.
No, if you just continue to press save, it should find the duplicates.
I see. Okay, got it.
It still has the same limitations of provisional records that they're not indexed. So you would need to look into your import report to find out which ones were saved as provisional to be able to find that that record set and access them from the record set.
Okay, got it.
So once you access them, you would press save, and that will find the duplicates.
Okay, I'll try it that way. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Let's see, Cassie asks, for the material type, what if they are new books? Will they update themselves automatically? Do you mean part of the EDI process, Cassie? Can you provide more information about your workflow? When the EDI process is working, it will function the same as it does in the client. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm going to open my purchase order that I just created. So I'm going to have to search for it in the Find tool. Press open. So this is the purchase order that I created by bulk adding the titles. I've clicked on the line items tab and you can see that it's added the 2 titles from my file. If you would want, you can add in charges in the purchase order or discounts on the charges tab, but I know many people add those to the invoice and not to the purchase order. If you've decided to edit your order, you can click on the line item to open it. So I'm going to click on the details tab. You can also update the discount rate on the details tab. You can check out the material type, make sure it's the correct one. Change the ISBN if you have a need for that. And so if you need to edit the segment, you do need to click on the checkbox and press edit to open the segment. So I'm just going to edit the quantity and add another copy to that and press save. So if there are duplicate line items, this will open to show you that there are duplicate line items. I've repeatedly created a lot of records as I'm practicing with the same files. So there's a lot of duplicates here today, but you can check those out if you need to by clicking on each one. And I'm going to press continue.
Quick question, Rachel.
Yes.
What's the exclamation point again? I keep forgetting.
The exclamation point in this case is because there are duplicate ISBNs, I believe. So the next step, as I demonstrated, would be to release your order. You would open the Actions drop-down menu and press Release, and it will generate the on-order item records. So these files did have the subfield H in the 970 field, so it's going to connect it to that item template using the subfield H. I'm going to press Yes, and then in the Payment Options dialog box opens, and then I'm going to press Continue. So this has changed the status to released and the line item status to on order. If you do have EDI orders, you can open that Actions drop-down menu again and press Send to send the EDI order. Are there any questions before I move on to invoices?
Sorry, Rachel, it's late again.
That's okay.
listening. Can you open up the biblical record?
Yeah, so the links to bibliographic items, invoices, and funds are on these tabs. So if I click on bibliographic records, it will list all the bibliographic records linked to the purchase order. You can press open to access the bibliographic record. Take a look at the MARC record if you'd like, or the items. So to directly connect to the items, you can click on the items tab of the purchase order, and it lists all of the new line items. All of the new item records. I can open that up, and you can see that it has chosen a specific template. You might want to check on the item template to make sure it's the correct one. I know sometimes the wrong item template can be linked to the item record by accident, so that's a good thing to be able to do. It also has the funds record that's linked to that. And when I create that invoice, it will have the invoice linked to it too. Are there any other questions?
So going back to the purchase order, when you release it, then am I able to see all the item records that was released on that purchase order?
Yes, if you click on the items tab right here, you will see all of the item records that were created.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question, Rachel.
Yes.
So what happens now in the client is, let's say I'm releasing a purchase order. If somebody else in the consortium is in that record, the item template picks on, like, it'll pick up like on order book club or on order high school, something that's not correct. Will the same thing happen here in LEAP?
Probably.
Okay.
I think it's meant to function the same. So it's very important for everyone to remember to release your purchase orders promptly so that the files don't get like mixed up with each other in the tables behind the scenes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the next step, since I have this purchase order open, I'm going to use that, will be to receive the order and copy it to the invoice. So if you have EDI ordering, this would function the same way as EDI ordering, in which the invoice would be created automatically. So for the libraries that don't have EDI invoicing, they'd have to manually receive the items. So this is that manual step for the vendors that don't have EDI orders, or for the libraries that do not use EDI ordering. So to select your line items, you will have to press these check boxes. You can press the one in the header row to select them all, or just select an individual one if only one item has been received. So I'm just going to select them all, and then press the receive button. The dialog box will pop up confirming you want to receive those items, and I'm going to press continue. It has changed the status to the received for the purchase order and line items. To copy the line items to the invoice, you will need to check the boxes again and press copy to. You can choose to copy it to a new invoice or an existing invoice. If you choose existing invoice, the find tool will open and you would search for your invoice. So I'm going to choose new invoice. The dialog box will ask if you want to confirm that you want to create the invoice. Press continue. And then you can type in your invoice number, change the date, verify that the supplier information is correct, and press continue. So the invoice has been created. Now to quickly access that invoice, you can press that invoices tab right here, and it will show you the invoices listed as being linked to the purchase order. So if you have multiple invoices that your order is split up with, you will have multiple invoices listed here. So I'm going to open up this invoice. And this looks just like it does in the purchase order with the details tab that has the owner, supplier, and EDI information and the line items. Now, when you do not receive the invoice via EDI, you will have to add in your header charges. So this is under the charges tab. And this will allow you to apply a discount or add a header charge. So I'm going to click add charge and add in a shipping charge. So the types of header charges are the same as in the client. So I'm just going to press shipping, add in a $10 charge. And I'll leave that fund as is and press OK. And I'll apply a discount. If the discount is in the supplier record, it would automatically apply that discount to the invoice. But if it's not, you'll just have to add it in manually and then press save. If for some reason you got a discount on a specific item, you can open that item and the line item and press the details tab on the line item. You can add in that separate discount to that line item in the discount rate section. Press save. And then you have to press refresh on the invoice in order for that to affect the invoice. See, we have some questions. One moment. Kelly asks that if you do have EDI invoices, would you choose existing invoice and type in the invoice number that you have? No, you wouldn't select existing invoice unless you do not use EDI order for that process. So when you're using EDI ordering, it already generates the invoice. And if the settings have been set up in the system administration to automatically receive the order and update the item record, that will happen automatically. If the settings say not to receive the order automatically, you would have to look at your purchase order and receive it. But what you would do would just be able to search for that invoice number that you have on your printed invoice and find it already created in Leap, just like you would in the client. It's the same process. So that workflow will not be changing at all. So this is really a process that's only for the non-EDI vendors, like an order from Amazon, or for the libraries that do not have EDI ordering set up. So there's some libraries that have not set up EDI ordering yet. And so the invoice is automatically linked to all of the other records, and you can find those on the separate tabs for those records. So this is the bibliographic records tab. It has your bibliographic records listed in the page. Your item records are listed on the items tab. The purchase order is listed on the purchase order tab, and the funds are now listed on the funds tab. So you'll see the two funds here because I added a fund for the shipping charge. So one of the glitches with leap that needs to be fixed is that it changes this owner on the details page. So when I pressed save, so if you notice when I initially created it, it said Fox River Valley. When I pressed save, it changed it to Algonquin. So that's one of the reasons why we don't recommend using it yet, is because it's messing with this owner drop-down menu for some reason. So we really want to make sure that that's fixed before anyone uses the production version of Leap. So the next thing to do is to pay the invoice. So I am going to open up the Actions drop-down menu and press Pay. Type in the invoice number. And then you can select check or voucher, change the date, and press Pay. So on the line items tab, that updates the status to pay. Are there any other questions? I've got about 10 minutes left for our scheduled time. And so I was wondering if you want me to continue on to demonstrate how to change the status of a line item or the purchase order line item for cases when you would need to return something like when it's damaged, how to cancel the purchase order and to credit invoices, or would you like me to schedule that for a different time? Some of you are okay with continuing, others want to schedule it. So I'm definitely going to schedule it for a different time, but if you want to stay, I will continue the demonstration now and also schedule it for a second time at the same time. So I will be repeating it in the future. So I'm going to share my screen. Again, one moment. And since I have an invoice open, I will start with crediting this invoice. So there are two ways to credit an invoice. Actually, there are technically three ways, but there is one way is just to credit the header charges. So to do that, though, you would have to unpay the invoice by opening the Actions drop-down menu and pressing Undo Payment. And then you would apply the header charges credit as a header charge by opening that the Add Header Charge dialog box and pressing Credit. And then pressing OK to add that credit. Then you have to pay it again for that credit to be applied. Cassie has a question about the voucher number. The checker voucher number can be whatever your library decides it should be. That's only a policy set up at your library. So the next option for crediting is to credit a specific line item. So you would select that line item to credit and press the credit button. So I've added in the number for the invoice or as the check or voucher. I've just been using the same number as the invoice and the purchase order, and then pressing credit. So it's credited that line item, but like the client, it locks that invoice. So if you anticipate needing to credit just a line item, you need to make sure that you've edited that invoice before you apply that credit. Because now it will not let me unpay that invoice in order to edit anything. So for example, you would want to unpay the invoice first, add that credit to the header charges first, after that, pay it again, then you can credit that line item. Because if you credit that line item first, you won't be able to add that header charge as a credit in. So I'm going to open up another invoice. Let's see, I have an invoice number as an example that I can use. And so this is an older invoice that I'm going to use. And the next way to credit the invoice is to credit the full invoice. So to credit the full invoice, this is the actions drop-down menu. And you can find credit. I'm just going to credit that, add a number, and press credit. So whenever you credit that invoice or unpay it or add any changes to it, like crediting the header charge, you will see the payment history updated on the payment history section. You want to take a look at the fund. You can open up the fund record and find that history right here on the history section of the fund record as well. Are there any questions about crediting invoices?
What I found when I do a credit, the line item, that the item record is still out there, so it has to be manually deleted because other.
Oh, that's a good tip. I haven't actually looked up item records after I've tried to credit them.
Yeah, the only time that a item record disappear is only when you cancel the line item or the purchase order line item. But if you use credit, that item record will still be out there. It has to be manually. I found that out.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that and try to remember to add that to our documentation. Okay, I'm going to open up a purchase order again for one more demonstration. Let's see, which one do I have? Okay, so the first thing I will show you with this purchase order is to modify the status of the line item. Oh, this is probably, yeah, okay. So if you, sorry, I'm just fumbling a bit because I was making sure this was the right example to use. Okay, so we can click on this line item, and in order to modify its status, you can press Actions and then Modify Status on the line item record. So you can change the status to returned if you need to return the record, out of print or not yet published, I think returned is probably the most common status to use, and then press update status. So this will update the status of the line item here. And then if you don't see it updated on the purchase order, you can press refresh, and that marks it as returned. So to cancel any line items, you would then click the checkbox. If there were multiple line items to cancel on the same purchase order, you can click on multiple ones or in the header row, and then simply press cancel. So the dialog box will pop up asking you to confirm that you want to press continue. And this cancels that order and changes the status of the line item and the purchase order to canceled. So I will be repeating both crediting and canceling in the future for those that want to see it again. And I'll probably schedule that when the uncancel option is added. I'll have to look up my schedule and see when that's happening again. So hopefully the glitches that are outstanding will be fixed for the version 7.4 upgrade. So we might be waiting until 7.4 comes in winter to be able to upgrade production. We do want to make sure that a significant amount of glitches that we found besides the ones with acquisitions are fixed. There found some other glitches that are not acquisitions related that we're waiting on patches for. So I'll have to update you as soon as we get that date that we're upgrading training to 7.4. And we'll have to do some user testing to make sure that all the glitches have been fixed and everything's functioning before we can choose to upgrade production. Are there any questions about what I've demonstrated today?
I just have one. Are you this version, can we do a partial quantity receive?
Do you mean with EDI orders?
No, just manual.
Manual?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me find a purchase order that has been released. One moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's one with 2 on it. So when you receive an order, you can just click on one line item and receive that order. So it's changed that line item status to received and the purchase order status to partially received. And you can see that the second.
Sorry to interrupt, Rachel. Well, what I meant is there's like a quantity, like 2 quantities, and we only receive 1. Can you
for receiving a segment and splitting a segment?
Yeah.
That has not been added yet. That's that's still outstanding.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions? Now, this is a lot of information for me to cover today, and we'll be repeating the information regularly as new updates are happening. And please do send me any questions that you have. If you find any glitches, please let us know so we can report them to Innovative. We want to make sure as many glitches are fixed as possible before the production version is available. And feel free to ask for any training to be repeated for yourself or for the library. I will be sending out a link to the video so you can watch it again, as well as the presentation slides so you can access the training. And I'd also really appreciate it if you fill out a survey. I've sent a link in the chat to the survey. The survey will help us know if we need to improve our training sessions or if there are any other additional training sessions we should be offering. Feel free to request any training sessions that you think we should provide for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you everyone for showing up today. And I will end the session now.